As I reached for my life-saving EpiPen to combat an impending allergic reaction, little did I know that Karen will confiscate my EpiPen thinking it's vape and demands I get expelled. Here's how it all went down. It was a typical sunny afternoon at school, and I had settled into my usual spot in the courtyard for lunch. I was with my usual group of friends, and we were in the middle of debating the best movie of the year. As I unwrapped my sandwich that I bought and took a bite, an all-too-familiar sensation began in my throat. Ever since I could remember, peanuts have been my nemesis. My allergy was discovered when I was just a toddler, after a tiny bite of a peanut butter cookie led to a frantic trip to the emergency room. Since that day, my mom, always the protective figure, emphasized the importance of being prepared. You can't always control what's in the food around you, she'd remind me, but you can always be ready. Her words echoed in my mind every time I packed my bag for school, ensuring my EpiPen was safely tucked inside. Now, feeling the early signs of a reaction, I knew I had to act fast. I zipped open my bag, pushing aside textbooks and notebooks, searching for the familiar shape of my EpiPen. Just as I was about to press the EpiPen against my thigh, a sudden dark shadow cast over me, momentarily blocking out the sun. I looked up, squinting, to find Karen towering over me. Known around school as the ever-present, overly involved parent, Karen had a reputation for sticking her nose where it didn't belong. She was always at school events, often volunteering just so she could keep an eye on things. Her eyes, usually scanning for any hint of mischief, were now fixed on me with an intensity I'd never seen before. "What on earth do you think you're doing?" she demanded, her voice dripping with accusation. Before I could even process her question, she reached down with surprising speed and snatched the EpiPen from my grasp. "Vaping in the school courtyard? You should be ashamed," she shouted, holding the EpiPen up like a trophy of her vigilance. Desperation and panic surged through me. "Karen, that's not a vape!" I exclaimed, trying to keep my voice steady despite the tightening in my chest. "It's my EpiPen! I'm having an allergic reaction! I need it now!" But her face, set in a mask of righteous indignation, told me she wasn't ready to listen. With a grip on my arm that was stronger than I would have expected, she began marching me towards the principal's office, her heels clicking loudly against the floor with each step. "You think you can get away with this? Not on my watch," she ranted, drawing the attention of everyone we passed. As we neared the office, she shouted, "You're going to regret this! Expulsion is the least of your worries!" Her voice was so loud that a few teachers peeked out of their classrooms, their faces a mix of concern and confusion. Barging into the principal's office without even knocking, Karen dramatically slammed the EpiPen on his desk. "I caught him red-handed," she declared, pointing an accusing finger at me. "Vaping in the middle of the school courtyard. Can you believe the audacity?" By this point, my vision was getting blurry, and I could feel my strength waning. Desperately, I managed to croak out, "It's not a vape. It's my EpiPen. Please, I need it." My voice was barely above a whisper, but the urgency in my eyes was unmistakable. The principal's eyes widened in recognition as he saw the EpiPen on his desk. Without hesitation, he reached out, grabbing the device and handing it over to me. I wasted no time, pressing it against my thigh and feeling the familiar sting as the medicine entered my system. Almost immediately, the world stopped spinning, and my breathing began to stabilize. Karen, on the other hand, appeared to be spiraling further into a state of delusion. Her face shifted from embarrassment to a wild mix of anger and bewilderment. "This is all a ruse!" she shrieked, her voice cracking with desperation. "He's trying to distract us from the truth!" The principal, looking thoroughly perplexed, tried to get Karen to calm down. "Karen, this is a medical emergency, and the device is genuine," he said, his voice tinged with concern. But Karen wasn't having any of it. She darted her eyes around the room like she was searching for hidden cameras, still convinced there was some elaborate conspiracy. Her finger pointed accusingly at both of us, her voice quivering with manic conviction. "You're all in on it. You're trying to silence me and hide the truth." Her voice grew shriller as she continued. "They're trying to pull the wool over my eyes." The principal and I exchanged a bewildered look as Karen's tirade spiraled out of control. The strangeness of this story didn't end there. Instead, Karen's behavior took a more disturbing turn. For the next few days, she started stalking me relentlessly, convinced that I was a key part of her wild conspiracy theory. She'd pop up out of nowhere, snapping pictures of me with her phone and watching my every move like a hawk. In the hallways, she'd corner me, her eyes wide with obsession, demanding that I prove the EpiPen was secretly a vape. Her persistence was relentless, and at times it bordered on harassment. The bizarre episode with Karen and her wild conspiracy theories eventually reached its conclusion. After weeks of relentless stalking and bizarre confrontations, Karen seemed to suddenly stop. Nobody was entirely sure why she had stopped, but it was a relief for everyone involved. Life at school began to return to normal, and Karen's antics became more of a peculiar memory than an ongoing concern. For me, it was a strange and unsettling chapter in my life, but it was also a valuable lesson in resilience and the unpredictability of human behavior. Sometimes life throws you curveballs, and all you can do is stay grounded and carry on. Wow, this story had me on the edge of my seat. Can't believe Karen mistook an EpiPen for a vape and caused such a scene. Glad everything turned out okay in the end, though. Stay safe, everyone. My husband and I had a great life together, until one day his father got sick and needed to be taken care of. Little did I know that this would be the start of a chain of problems in our relationship. Here's how it all went down. I am 26 years old, and my husband is 27 years old. We live with his parents. His father had some health issues and needed care, so we agreed to move in and help out. My father-in-law is generally doing better now, but there are still a few things he can't do, which my husband now takes care of. We have discussed moving out. I want to, but my in-laws are very resistant to the idea, stating that there is plenty of room here, and they don't know what they would do without us, etc. While we don't pay his parents to live here, their decision, we pay for groceries for everyone and several household bills, electricity, internet, TV packages, etc. The house is mortgage-free. I also handle all the household cleaning and cooking. I arrange and take care of all their pets' veterinary appointments as well. I work from home, so it is easier for me to handle these tasks as I have flexibility. We also contribute to half of any house modifications or upgrades, as it has been mentioned that it will be our house one day. Recently, I've started feeling resentful because once they are done with work, they can come home and relax, while I have to finish work and then cook and clean without any help. On the weekends, I spend half of the day cleaning the house while they do as they please. This all came to a head last week. I was really unwell. I felt the worst I've ever felt and wanted nothing more than to sleep. However, once it got around to dinner time, I was woken by my mother-in-law to ask when I was getting up to make dinner. I didn't want to cause an argument, so I just got up and made dinner for them. But as I was in the kitchen struggling not to pass out, the three of them sat watching a movie, waiting for me to bring in their food. I didn't say anything at first. I waited until my husband and I were alone to bring up my concerns with the lack of help. My husband apologized and offered to help more, which I accepted. However, the next day was an exact repeat. I had to drag myself out of bed to cook, and once I'd brought in their food, my mother-in-law says, "Oh, you look truly awful. Poor you. Oh, by the way, later would you mind giving everywhere an extra clean? I don't want to get whatever you have." At that point, I accused them of treating me like a live-in maid and not caring about me outside of the services I provide for them. I pointed out that I wouldn't be in the communal areas if I hadn't been dragged out to cook, and that they could have handled one meal themselves. My husband sat there in silence. He thinks I should have brought it up more carefully at a time when I wasn't so emotional. I agree that I probably should have, but I was sick and stressed. I want to move out, but my husband and in-laws are still against it. Nothing has changed with what they expect from me, and I got no apology, just silent treatment from my mother-in-law for a couple of days. So, am I the jerk? After a few days, I started putting my wages into my own bank account. I removed all of my savings from our joint savings account and transferred everything from my own safety account, just in case. This turned out to be the best decision because I found out I was pregnant roughly 2 weeks after. I had been told at 15 that due to some medical conditions, I would never be able to get pregnant naturally, so it was a complete shock. Once I had a scan to check everything was okay, thankfully it was, we told my in-laws. And this is what gave me the final push I needed. Immediately, names were being thrown around and my mother-in-law started talking about reducing her hours to part-time or early retirement so she could be around to raise the baby. This rubbed me completely the wrong way. I didn't want anyone else raising my baby. Colors for the nursery and themes were constantly being discussed, but my opinions were never taken into consideration. Within a week, I felt as though I was just an incubator. The final straw happened when myself, my husband's cousin, and my mother-in-law went shopping. I had been looking at different kinds of breast pumps before being told that I would be bottle feeding so everyone could help out. I didn't want to cause a scene in the middle of the shop, so I moved on to outfits. However, everything I picked up or looked at was either the wrong color, style, or something. I had picked out one outfit, which would be my first baby purchase, and my mother-in-law snatched it out of my hands before I could pay, telling me that it was the wrong kind of outfit, it wasn't gender neutral enough, and if the baby is a boy like we're hoping, then it's far too feminine. I didn't need to be told what I could and couldn't dress my own child in, nor did I appreciate the suggestion that they would all prefer a boy, let alone being told how I would be feeding my child. So I left. I tried talking to my husband on 3 separate occasions, and he either made excuses or brushed me off entirely. I couldn't handle it anymore. I packed my bags and went to stay with my sister for a week. My husband called once and asked me to go home, once. I made it clear I wouldn't be returning to live in that house, that I would raise the baby on my own if he didn't want to leave, but I would not allow my child to be raised in such a toxic environment. As a big surprise to no one, he stayed put. After that, I received a flood of texts in the family group chat, but I left and deleted them all. I have started the divorce process, and hopefully, since I have saved all the offensive messages from either my ex or his family about both myself and my baby, they won't get any form of custody. Although, since I announced the gender, they have all gone quite silent. I now have a small 3-bedroom house. I am only renting for now while I wait for the divorce to finalize, but it is plenty big enough for the two of us. My daughter will grow up surrounded by my family and plenty of cousins to play with. The house is pretty bare at the moment as I only got the keys a couple of days ago, but I have time before she arrives to make sure everything is ready. It is absolutely right that she left. It's essential not to let in-laws control your life and decisions. Taking control of your own happiness and creating a healthy environment for yourself and your child is a courageous and empowering choice. Wishing her all the best in this new chapter of her life. I never imagined that revealing my mother's past would lead to the unraveling of my engagement. Secrets, accusations, and a shocking connection between my fiancé's uncle and my mom's previous occupation came to light. As the tension escalated, I had to make a heart-wrenching decision to protect my mom. Here's how it all went down. I am 26 years old female, not from the USA, and my dad left my mom and me when I was only 5 years old. I also have a brother, 21 years old male. He left the country with his mistress and never tried to contact. We were really poor. My mom had to do some immoral things to get food on the table. She was a stripper and also sometimes pleased men to get money for us. She put me and my brother through school. I understood why my mom did what she did because we had no money, and she wanted us to have a better life, and I'm not ashamed because of it. I also started working part-time when I was 14. I was a good student, so I got a scholarship to a good university. My mom eventually stopped stripping when my brother got a part-time job too. She now only works as a waitress. I met my fiancé Javi when we were in college. This was my first serious relationship, and we both loved each other deeply. I never told Javi about my mom's past because she made me promise to never disclose it to anyone. I kept that promise, but it felt wrong to hide such significant information from my fiancé. Javi knew that my family was extremely poor, but he didn't care about our financial status. He is a kind-hearted person who always takes care of me. He even helped with some of the expenses for my brother's education, even though I told him not to. My mom also likes Javi, which is why she instructed me not to reveal anything about her past or previous occupation to him. A week ago, my mom and I went to Javi's house to meet his parents. I didn't realize that his uncle and aunt would also be there. When my mom saw his uncle, her face turned white as if she had seen a ghost. His uncle also stared at my mom as if he recognized her. Feeling uncomfortable, my mom expressed her desire to leave. "I can't stay here. Not with him around," she whispered to me, her voice trembling. Javi was confused by the situation, but we left earlier than expected. The following day, Javi came to our place and angrily accused me of lying to him. "You didn't tell me your mom was involved with my uncle." He practically spat the words at me, his face contorted with anger. "I swear I had no idea," I replied desperately. "My mom didn't recognize him either until we got there." He called me a gold digger, comparing me to my mother, and blamed her for his uncle's failed marriage. "You're just like her, using people for money," he accused, his eyes burning with rage. According to him, his uncle was one of my mom's regular clients and had hired her for her services. When his wife caught them together, she immediately filed for divorce. My mom was in tears, explaining that she had no idea he was married as she never asked about the marital status of her clients. "I don't get involved in their personal lives," she sobbed. "I didn't know he was married." I defended my mom, my frustration boiling over. "She's not to blame for his failed marriage. He's the one who cheated on his wife." But Javi continued to blame both me and my mom, claiming that he felt deceived. "You kept this from me," he shouted. "I can't trust you or your mom." He even went as far as saying that he didn't want to be with a promiscuous person's daughter because he believed I would follow in my mom's footsteps. "That's not fair," I yelled back. "You can't judge me based on my mom's past." My mom pleaded with him not to break off the engagement, her eyes filled with desperation. "We can make this work, please, Javi." But I was exhausted, torn between my love for Javi and my loyalty to my mom. I didn't want my mom to suffer because of our relationship, so I made a painful decision. I returned the engagement ring and told Javi to never show his face again. My mom is angry because she believes this might have been my only chance to get married, as she thinks no other man would marry into a family where the mother used to work in the adult industry. "It's not your fault," I whispered to her, tears in my eyes. "I couldn't let him blame you for something you had no control over." The room was heavy with tension, and the wounds inflicted during that intense confrontation seemed irreparable. But I think I did the right thing because I am not ashamed of my mom. I didn't even want to hide it in the first place. I wanted to tell him the truth, but my mom refused it. So, am I the jerk? To clear things out a bit, Javi knows everything about my life. He knows my dad fled the country, and we had to live in poverty because of it. He knows my mom got pregnant way too young. I did give him hints that my mom had to do shady things to get by. He probably thought my mom stole things. But I didn't disclose that she was in the adult industry. I wanted to tell him, but my mom said not to because she doesn't want this to escalate. Also, I never asked Javi to pay for my brother's education. He did it out of the goodness of his heart. I did promise to pay him back. I am not after his money. I do love him a lot. Even though we are broken up now, I still miss him. We have been together for 6 years. It is not easy to throw away those 6 years just like that. After I broke the engagement, I've been getting calls from my friends and Javi's family that I am making a huge mistake. My close friends know that my mom used to be involved in adult content, but mutual friends of mine and Javi do not know about it. So they are also questioning me if I ever did that. Javi did apologize. He said he got carried away by his emotions and he loves me. Not gonna lie, I love him too. I wanted to get past all of this. I know people have told me that I should not get married to this guy, but I was weak for a moment, until he told me that he is willing to let things go and start anew if my mom does not attend any wedding functions. I was shocked. Weddings are a big deal in our culture. There are many functions and parties surrounding the wedding. How can he ask that I do not involve my mom? He told me that because of my mom's past, it would be difficult for his family members to be around her. He convinced his mom with difficulty about this engagement. Also, since his uncle is going to be there, it will only remind him of bad things. At that moment, I realized that I was never a consideration. It was always him and making his family happy. My family is beneath them because we are not from a respectable background and come from homes of sex workers. I stood firm and told him no, it is not going to happen. I will not give in to their demands because the way I see it, my mom did not do anything wrong. It is funny how quickly people will judge a woman based on her work that she had to do to feed her kids, but no one will come forward to help her in time of her need. Javi threatened that I am making a huge mistake by letting him go. I just left. I do not have the energy to deal with it. I think this news is spreading like wildfire now. I may have to move out of the city because if this news reaches to my workplace, I know damn well people will ostracize me. So, I might look for a job in a different area. Lastly, I messaged him saying I am sorry for not telling him earlier about my mom, but I loved him a lot. I am sad that he chose this topic to ruin a 6-year-old relationship. I will be going to the bank and pay back the money he paid for my brother's education. I am still crying and jilted to say the least. Few months later, as I suspected, the news of my mom's previous profession did spread like wildfire. Some of mine and Javi's friends literally cut me off because they don't want to deal with someone from that background. I guess it is for the best, because it shows they are not my real friends. My true friends stuck with me. This impacted my brother a lot. I know living here would make things difficult. My brother will be graduating soon. I advised him to look for a master's program in a foreign country like in the USA, Canada, or the UK. Because of this whole fiasco, my mom and I moved to a new city. I took a transfer from my work. My boss, bless her heart, is the most amazing human being. She literally defended me. She told my coworkers not to bother me about anything other than work. My personal life shouldn't be any of their business. She's been so supportive of me and my family. She never questioned me or judged me. She transferred me to a different city at my request, and even managed to find an apartment for me and my mom. She's like Michael Scott, but mature. That is the only positive outcome from this. As for my ex, he is seeing another girl his parents set him up with. But he did call the first 2 months just to try to get me back. I had moments of weakness because I loved him so much. But the hurtful things he said about me and my family just played in my mind. I am still trying to heal from everything. I just hope I can get my brother out of this difficult situation and into a better place. People here are hypocrites and outdated. Nobody wants to change. Even people my age are so conservative. There has also been another bomb that dropped on us. That is, my piece of shit, sperm donor, found me on Facebook and messaged me to meet. I don't know what the hell he thinks. That I am going to forget those 20 years we struggled because he was a coward. Selfish snake. Some people really think women are involved in adult content for fun, especially when it involves a mother with children in a city that stigmatizes adult content work. Their flawed logic suggests that, without adult content workers, men wouldn't be able to engage in such behavior, so they place all the blame on the workers themselves. It is easier for them to scapegoat those who have to engage with deplorable individuals to survive, rather than facing the harsh reality of their own actions, including affairs, or even worse, the rape of women. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.